The UN Road Safety Fund was set up in 2018 really to respond to the complete lack of global funding for road traffic injury. And it's intended to be a focal point for donors, both governmental donors and private sector donors who want to help support action in middle and low income countries to reduce road traffic deaths and injuries.
And at the moment you are fundraising, I understand that there was a meeting in Monaco.
So the high level panel, which is run by the FIA, is bringing together senior CEOs from business, from sport, from civil society to try to get sort of a united voice around the need for increased funding. So the high-level panel met in Monaco. It's also met in Stockholm during the ministerial conference back in February. Other meetings over the last 5 years. The high-level panel and John Todd, who's the FIA president and the UN Special Envoy, was actually instrumental in making sure that the UN Road Safety Fund happened. And the FIA Foundation, which I run, has provided a $10 million donation to the Road Safety Fund to help kickstart the fundraising. But we're now in a situation where the fund has raised about 20 million in total. There's been some generous support from the Russian government, the French government, the European Commission, other governments, as well as some private sector donors. But we've raised 20 million. That covers our short-term target, but the medium-term target is much, much more ambitious. The idea is that over the next 5 years, the fund wants to try and raise at least $300 million. So the UN fund, the high-level panel meeting, which has just met, was trying to sort of put together a strategy for how are we going to fundraise, how are we going to persuade people that this is an important issue. And obviously during the COVID pandemic, when politicians' attention is elsewhere, when economies are in deep trouble, when businesses are in deep trouble, it becomes even more challenging to try and persuade people to provide money for this issue, but it is a vital issue that needs to be funded.
Indeed, there is 1.3 million people who die on roads and related accidents, right? Every year, worldwide. That's a worldwide number, I heard.
That's right. 1.3 million people are dying every year on the world's roads, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, because at least 50 million people are being seriously injured in road traffic crashes as well. And some of them very seriously, lost limbs, brain damage, lifelong care required. Some less seriously, but still traumatic. And so it's a massive issue. If you look at the COVID pandemic, you can't compare the two things, of course. But with all of the restrictions that have been put in place, the measures that have been put in place, we've still reached this very grim benchmark of 1 million people dying from COVID. Well, imagine that is happening every year, year in, year out on the roads, and yet too few governments are willing to put in place much less serious measures that are needed to prevent those deaths and injuries, and that's something that we're trying to change.
And also, most of these accidents are in lower to mid to low income countries.
That's right. About 90% of people who are killed and injured are being killed and injured. That's 90%, yeah, are being killed or injured in low and middle income countries. A lot of times as well, I think that there's this sort of assumption, perhaps because of the way people travel in the West, that it's all people in cars. A lot of people who are being killed and injured are pedestrians or cyclists or people traveling on public transport or trying to get to public transport. It's poor people, it's poor working people, it's children. Young children are being killed in appalling industrial numbers. 250,000 children every year are dying around the world. If you're a child in Sub-Saharan Africa, you are twice as likely to be killed in a road crash as a child anywhere else in the world. So there's a huge inequality issue around this. It's a poverty issue. It's an issue of intergenerational justice as well. And it connects to so many other issues that we really need to get this message across, that if you can tackle road traffic injury, you will also be tackling a bunch of other health issues and social issues as well.
What kind of activities you are planning to raise awareness of how city planners can also collaborate with the goals of the UN Road Safety Fund?
Well, I think obviously everything's being overshadowed by COVID at the moment, but I think what a lot of our partners are doing and demonstrating and showing in cities is that these two issues are linked. One of the big responses to COVID and the need for social distancing has been an increase in provision of walking and cycling facilities. So you've seen cities widening sidewalks, introducing new cycle lanes, trying to get people sort of moving without using their cars, people who don't want to travel on public transport. If everybody who uses the train to get into work or about their business started doing that by car, we would have an auto-apocalypse. It would be appalling. But if we can persuade more people to walk and cycle, particularly for short journeys, then there's good environmental reasons for doing that, good health reasons for doing that. So I think let's turn the COVID crisis into a lasting solution for all of our other crises, for the climate crisis, for the air quality crisis, for the road traffic injury crisis. Let's fix all of these problems at the same time. And one of the ways to do that is to improve walking and cycling provision everywhere.